seconds live.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm not expecting anybody to respond because you're all on mute and this is a virtual message. Well, good evening, everybody, and thanks again for joining the West Midlands Violence Reduction Unit, second episode of what we're doing here where we're speaking to the community of Walsall. So we have young people of Walsall who will shortly be introduced. My name is Mike Crawford from the Farina Business Group, and I'll be facilitating today's session. And today's session, move along in the series. Last week we covered COVID-19, and this week we'll be covering youth violence. And yeah, we're excited to hear what the community has to say, and the youth of Warsaw will have their very own chance to speak. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I'd like to introduce or have them introduce themselves, our two hosts. So first up, Renee, would you like to give us a quick introduction of who you are, where you're from, and what education facility you're representing?
Yeah, my name's Renee. I'm 18. I'm a university student at Manchester Met, and I'm currently studying law.
Thank you. And our second host, Devon, would you like to take yourself off mute and an introduction, please?
My name's Devon Bala. I'm 18 years old as well, and I would have gone to university but decided not to, and instead I'm choosing to do work instead.
Excellent, excellent. And as we go around the room, I see we have Shay. If you would like to take yourself off mute and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shay, and I'm currently studying at a college, King Edward's. And yeah, I'm studying politics, sociology, and RF.
Excellent. And then I see we have Addison. If you could take yourself off mute.
Hi, I'm Addison. I'm in year 9 and I'm at Shire Oak Academy and I'm currently choosing my options.
Okay, great. So welcome. We have our hosts, we have some participants, and I believe that we will have a couple more or maybe 1 or 2 participants joining later. So maybe we could start, just to get everybody warmed up to the topic, we could start with a little bit of a quiz that I'd like to ask to the entire group. And the first question is it illegal for a shop to sell a knife to anyone under the age of 16? By a show of hands. By a show of hands. Would anybody like to have a go at answering that one? Take yourself off mute and have a go at answering.
Yes.
It is illegal for a shop to sell. Correct. Well done. Addison, that was correct. Second question. Carrying a knife, if it's only to defend yourself, is an acceptable excuse in the law. True or false? By a show of hands. Ashay, would you like to answer that one?
It's false.
It's false. That is indeed correct. Okay. Question 3. Nearly half of the people who carry a knife have been injured by their own weapon. True or false? Oh, did I see a show of a hand from Danielle?
True.
That is indeed true. And just whilst we're there and we've got Danielle on the line, can we have a quick introduction, Danielle?
Hi, my name's Danielle. I'm a year 9 at Shire Academy.
Excellent. Right, good. Welcome. We have the fourth question. Can the police stop and search you if they believe you are carrying a knife? Yes or no? Go ahead, Addison.
Yes.
That is indeed correct. Oh, these questions are far too easy for you, lot. All right. Number 6, this might trip somebody up. What is the maximum sentence for carrying a knife, even if it's not used? Show of hands. Go ahead, Addison.
Is it like 2 years?
No, it's a little bit higher. Do we have any other takers? Good guess though. 2 years is actually what I said before I went and got the answers from somewhere. So well done. The answer is actually 4 years. And our last question here is, what is the age of criminal responsibility? Can we get a show of hands? Who wants to have a go at it? Go ahead, Danielle, take yourself off mute.
Is it 10?
Very good. It is indeed 10 years old. Well done. Okay, you guys did remarkably well. I need to work on my assumptions. I thought those were meant to be tough questions. But okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to move this over onto our hosts, and they're going to be asking the questions to Ashay, Addison, and Danielle. So if you all take yourself off mute, and then we can answer. So I think we should start with Renee.
Okay, so
and then I'll let you and Devon take it from here.
my first question is, what do you currently know about youth violence? Are there any examples of youth violence that you already know? Starting with Addison, please.
I don't fully know about youth violence yet, but I think it might have something to do with like younger people getting into like criminal things, like carrying knives, maybe getting sentenced, or yeah, something around them sort of lines.
Okay. Ashay, did you have anything to add on to that?
I don't really know a lot either, but I do know that a lot of youths are involved in stabbings, and that a lot of them are usually like in like cities like Birmingham and like London and stuff.
Okay. And Danielle, did you have anything to add?
It could include knives and joining gangs.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, following from what Renee said, we're talking about youth violence. So what do you guys think might be possible weapons? Things you could use to harm other people? I'd like to start with Ashay.
Knives you can use to harm people. Some people might even get a hold of like firearms, like guns and stuff like that, to also harm people.
Danielle, would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah, it could include knives and things like using that some people use to as self-defense. So you might not use that.
And Addison, is there anything you want to include?
I think it just could be anything that's sharp, because I mean anything that's sharp could make possible. Yeah.
Addison, do you think that household items could be potentially weapons? So things you use in your
Yeah.
home?
Yeah, just like simple things like scissors, or maybe like keys, like because they're quite sharp and could be used as weapons, and yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So my second question to all of you is, in the current climate regarding youth violence, do you feel safe, and why? Starting with Danielle, please.
I feel quite safe because the police are watching over all the people who do have it.
Okay. Addison?
Yeah, I feel quite safe because I know if anything happens, it will get reported, and I know that we have people that are there for kind of things that happen. So I know that I feel quite safe. Yeah.
And Ashay?
Yeah, I also feel safe. I do feel like I'm not going to like end up in a situation like that. So
Now, I'd like to ask, because social media likes to show us inspirational models, famous people, and some famous people carry around, sorry, the wrong kind of message sometimes. So do you feel like some youth, some young people carry around weapons to be similar or like their inspiration, like a bad role model? Do you feel like that's possible? I'd like to start with Addison.
If they do bring the wrong message, obviously, because some people are like that and they do want to be like their role models, so they probably will carry around like weapons just to like make them look cool, or just to make like just get involved with people. So
Danielle, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, because some people follow the celebrities because they want to be like them, and some people do carry around knives because they carry around the wrong message.
Okay. Michelle, your opinion, please.
Yeah, I feel like celebrities do influence people a lot, and if someone really wants to be like that person, then they will try and do everything like them. But I feel like some people have sense kind of and won't do exactly everything if they know it's not right, because they obviously know it's not what they're supposed to do.
And Shay, do you feel like some of the people who try to be like the inspiration, they aren't really aware of what they're doing when carrying a weapon or carrying something like that on them?
Yeah, I feel like people see these celebrities and people who influence them and think that it's just straightforward like that, and they don't really understand that there's more behind stuff. So when they try and act like them, they're not really understanding that stuff goes a little bit deeper than they actually think it does.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Okay, so I have a statement.
If I could just jump in on that one before your next question, Renee. So Devin mentioned how some people vibe off of others, and you see a celebrity or see somebody on social media, but it isn't. Where does it actually start? The very first person to carry the very first knife, why do you think they carry knives in the first place? And I'm asking that to the hosts as well as all of the participants. Maybe Ashay, you could go first.
I'm not quite sure. I think it kind of roots from a situation where that person may feel unsafe and feel like the only way they can be protected, which is really not right, is to carry the knife, which I don't agree with. Maybe they might feel safe and knowing that if anything happens, they have something to protect them. In a way, maybe they felt like that was the reason. That's why they picked up the knife in the beginning.
Okay. What do you think, Danielle?
They might have carried the knife for self-defense.
Okay. So they start out in the very beginning wanting to defend themselves. Okay. Addison, what are your thoughts on this? As in the very first people that carry the knife before everybody else does, why might they carry the knife?
I do agree with Shay and Danielle. They would be using it for self-defense because maybe they've had their own experiences, and maybe that they want to like pass it on to everyone else. Like, you've got to carry a knife because this has happened to me, so it's going to happen to you. It's just like, yeah.
What do you think about that, Renee? Do you think that's? Have you got another perspective, or are you pretty much?
I guess sometimes it can be for self-defense that person may start carrying a knife, but I feel like there's lots of other reasons as well. Sometimes it might just be a sort of power construct to make someone feel like they've got more control over a situation that might not even be there. And then one person will say, oh, they've got it, so now they feel unsafe, they start carrying, and it goes into like a kind of domino effect of carrying other weapons as well.
That's it. So somebody that starts it because whether they're trying to show out or intimidate or show that they have power, and then the domino effect, as you mentioned, that people respond to. What did you think, Devin?
Well, I'm in agreement with everyone else. I mean, I pretty much share their opinion because people don't. I think people don't carry around a knife to go out and thinking they're gonna go attack somebody. They're thinking that they're gonna carry the knife in case they're the ones getting attacked. So
Right. I guess. All right.
yeah.
Just had that question. Let's get back to you,
Okay.
Renee. I believe you were up
So,
next.
I have a statement from the British Youth Council, and it says that 46% of knife crime victims are under the age of 25. So my question to all of you is, do you think that this impacts you regarding your age and the situation? Starting with Danielle.
It does impact us because it is, you said and you said quite a high number, and that could be anywhere. It could happen anywhere.
Do you have anything else to say on that matter?
No.
Okay. Addison, please.
Even though it doesn't impact you as a person, it can also like impact it like other people, because if you know someone that's in a gang or is carrying a knife, you're going to try to stop them because you know that you don't want them getting hurt if you're really close to them. So you just don't want that effect like affecting you, because you know that if they get hurt, you're going to be hurt yourself. So
Okay, thank you. Ashay?
Yeah, I agree with like Addison when she was saying if you know the person who's involved then it can affect you. But I also feel like it can affect you in other ways. Like if you're thinking about, well, me, like 16-year-olds who are getting involved in stuff like this, I think like these people are my age and these people are getting caught up in things that aren't right. And I feel like it affects me like that because I'm thinking it's unfair that they're in this situation at my age and I'm in the same age as well. And it's just like we're living two different lives and it's a bit sad to know that there's people my age going through stuff like that. So it does affect you like that as well, I think.
100%. I agree with you.
So I would like to ask, considering it's violence, why do you think the violence keeps going? Why do you think violence continues? I'd like to ask this to Danielle first.
Violence could continue happening because people follow after each other.
So like a pattern. You feel like some people keep fighting and so it just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah.
Okay. Addison, do you have the same thought or are you feeling something different?
maybe because they've had their past experiences, so maybe they've dealt with like being abused or something like that, and they just feel like they need to fit in. So if they join a gang or something like that, obviously they're going to look cool, and then yeah, it just carries on.
Okay, so from your point of view, some people join gangs and start violence because they want to feel acceptance somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And Ashay, what have you got to say about it?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of peer pressure involved and wanting to fit in, and I feel like it carries on because that's just kind of the life that people are living, and sometimes it's difficult for them to get out of the situation that they're in, and yeah, so it just carries on going on and on.
Okay.
So my next question is, what do you think can be done to prevent further youth violence? Starting with Addison, please.
Maybe they need to put like more seriousness on it, because maybe they'll just have to do like security and stuff like even before they just come into any like shop or anything, because if the number keeps rising, it's of like younger people, it's gonna affect like everyone, because no one's gonna feel safe if they know that quite a lot of people are carrying knives as just self-defense when they might be using it to obviously go at someone or something like that.
Okay. Ashay?
I feel like youths have obviously have access to education. So I feel like if there were people who are educated on the subject of youth violence, they can like speak in schools or speak in colleges and try and educate the youth on like the issues and what isn't right and why things like this are wrong and how it can be changed, and just try and tell them that it's not right and kind of push them towards doing the right stuff and having the correct lifestyle.
Okay, and Danielle, please.
They could teach more people about it in schools.
Is there anything specific you think that they could be taught about, or is it just in general?
They could be taught someone's point of view. They could be taught a story that have happened.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I would like to ask, when it comes to like youth violence and things like that, it's a big deal. And so, who do you personally think are most impacted? It can just be the person, the victim, but who outside of that do you think is impacted? I would like to start with Addison.
Maybe just close relatives, or maybe just even friends. Because if you know that they're included in something like that, obviously you're going to be impacted, and obviously you're going to want to try to stop it.
Yeah.
But obviously you don't want to get hurt at the same time.
Understandable. Do you think it would affect places where they go, like schools or colleges?
Yeah, because obviously if you know that they're carrying a knife of some sort, or just any weapon in general, obviously you're not going to feel safe. So obviously the numbers of students coming into school are going to drop, and then obviously like when you have like mock exams or GCSEs, obviously you're going to get a lower grade because you haven't come into school. So
Yeah, so it's like that because of the crimes and things that happen among the youth, people are now becoming afraid to go to schools and stuff.
yeah.
Okay, I understand that. Danielle, have you got anything to say?
It would affect the friends and family or the close people to that person who did it.
Okay. And Ashay, have you got anything to say?
Yeah, like obviously, like friends and family are majorly affected, but also people, even if someone has like witnessed it, like what happened, they can be extremely affected as well. But even if you like live in that area, you're probably gonna feel a little bit unsafe or wary of what's gonna happen to you because it happened where you live or how you travel to school. So yeah, I think it can affect many people in different ways.
Okay. Okay, thanks. That's it.
Okay, so my next question is, if there are more youth clubs available, how would you feel about that, and how do you think it would impact youth violence? Starting with Ashay.
I think youth clubs are really a positive thing. I feel like it keeps young kids off the streets and gives them something to do. Like it keeps them active and motivated to change their lives and realize that there's more to their lives than just being on the streets and getting involved with the wrong crowd. It actually gives them a chance to be creative and do other stuff that can positively affect their lives. So yeah, I think it would be like a good thing.
Thank you. Danielle, please.
It will give more. It might cut down it might cut down the number of people caused by young violence, and it could help them a lot more.
Okay. And Addison, please.
Yeah, I agree with Ashay and Danielle, because it gives people a chance to actually see what they are actually capable of, or what hobbies they might actually like, with obviously not getting into the wrong crowd, like Ashay said, and actually finding something that they actually enjoy themselves. So
Okay, thank you.
So I would like to mention, I asked a question earlier about influential figures. Now, similar to that, what do you think the impacts of social media are on youth? Do you think it encourages? Do you think it almost actually prevents youth violence? What do you think the impacts are of social media on youth violence? I'd like to ask Ashay first.
I think with social media, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I feel like it depends on how you're using it and the type of things you're exposed to. Because in one sense, it can prevent it because there can be like just like little adverts popping up while you're scrolling on like Twitter or Instagram saying like this is what's happening around you. Don't do this, don't do that. But also, if you're like engaging in bad stuff, then it can also
Yeah.
influence you to go out and do bad stuff. I think it just kind of depends on what you're using social media for and how you're using it, which can really affect.
Okay, so you would say it's like a double-edged sword. It can be used positively, but it could also be used negatively.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Danielle, I'd like to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, it can be positive and negative because it can be on both sides because either way it spreads the story or it can spread what happened.
So you see social media as being more awareness, so people can be aware of what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And Addison?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with what Danielle said. How it can make you more aware, but also if you just see like loads of stories about loads of people like getting stabbed and like around where you live, obviously it's going to encourage it because it's going to make people want to have like some sort of weapon to defend themselves if it happens to them. So.
Okay, okay.
So there was a statement in the Birmingham Mail, and the statement was, rising crime in Walsall needs more police to tackle it. So with this statement, do you agree or disagree, and why? Starting with Danielle, please.
I agree with this statement because more police caught on are fixing the problem and they're not encouraging the knife crime.
Okay. Do you think there's anything specific the police could do?
They could say more about the their point of view, what they think is happened.
Okay, thank you. Addison?
I do and don't, because obviously I don't because they've got loads of other things to deal with, but I do at the same time because obviously the number needs to drop because of how many young people are getting involved in this sort of thing. And I don't think I can't really think of anything for them to do at the top of my head, but there is something that I think they can do to make the number drop.
Okay, thank you. And Ashay, please.
I think the police obviously like their role is to protect the communities and make sure everyone's like following the laws and stuff like that. But when it comes to this, I don't really know what much they can do. Like I do know that they do stop and search, but I feel like there's also issues with stop and search. So it's just kind of like it's probably not that easy to think of things that they can do that they haven't already done or are already doing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would like to ask, so Renee was speaking on terms of police, but I would like to know, honestly, what would you think would be a short-term solution to like, not exactly fix, but help prevent youth violence in your community or in your area? It could be anything. I'd like to ask Danielle first.
They could
It's okay, it's okay.
they could help more people with the trouble from spreading it to other people.
Okay, okay. And Ashay?
Personally, I kind of feel like when it comes to youth violence, before violence even happens, I feel like education is like a real main point, and that if children are a little bit more active in education and they take their education serious and they have like a path that they want to go on, I feel like they won't have to resort to violence because they'll be too like involved in improving their lives and doing work and just bettering themselves in that way. And I feel like if education has a bit more of a, I thought you not the word is, but if it's just taken more seriously, then
Mm.
yeah, I just feel like youth violence will be decreased. Kind of.
Okay, so you would say that if people, young people, had a better attitude towards their education and knew where they wanted to go, they would be less likely to end up in youth violence.
Yeah, basically, because if I've got like my mind on, I want to get this career, I want to do this, I'm not gonna have time to even take
Yeah.
part in stuff like that because my mind's just on other stuff.
Okay, okay. And Addison?
Yeah, I agree with it, Shay. Like if you've got your mind set on something that you really wanted to do, but you know if you're going to get involved in these things, you're not going to be able to like accomplish that goal. So like yeah, having your mind set on something. But I also think oh, it's gone. Yeah, so, yeah, like that.
Okay, okay. That's understandable. Thank you.
Okay, before we jump into the next question, we have another participant that's just joined the line. So we have Faria. Faria, oh,
Hi.
there's a picture. There
Sorry,
she is.
guys. It's really dark.
It's
Sorry.
okay. It's all right. If you have a light, that would be great, but we can see you. So you are on live right now, just so you know. Would you like to introduce yourself just by your name, the area
Okay.
that you're in, and either your work or an establishment and your age? Name, age,
Okay.
work, study, and location.
Okay. So, hi, guys. My name's Faria. I'm 18 years old. I know most of the people on here, I think, like Devon and Renee. But at the moment, I am working for HomeServe. That's why I was a bit late. Yeah, I do a lot of things like charities and stuff. Obviously with like street teams and Islamic relief and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a bit about me, guys.
Okay, so we're glad to have you here. And maybe, Devon, the question that you just posed to the group and have everybody answer, maybe you could ask that question again to get Faria's input.
Okay, so Faria, I asked everyone here, because tackling youth violence is a hard thing to do, it isn't easy and it won't be done in one day. So can you think of any short-term solutions, short-term alternatives to help prevent youth violence in your area or community?
Right. Okay, I think like one of the most effective ways could be getting young people involved themselves to like work with like the professionals and stuff, because at the end of the day we've like seen all of that and we can kind of relate to it. So in that sense we can pick up on the signs quite easily and then pass that on to the professionals and that. So yeah, I think that would be really effective. Like if we all came together and did something as a community, like young people together and professionals and everyone basically comes together, and then that understanding could be a lot better to help tackle the violence. Yeah.
Okay, so your idea is that you want to bring unity, you want to bring everyone together, and so they won't have a reason to be apart and cause
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
understand that. Sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So my first question is, do you guys think females carry knives? Starting with Addison, please.
Maybe if they do get involved in some sort of stuff. Obviously there's no physical gender for anyone to join in. Like anyone could just join in. So I mean, yeah.
Okay. Ashai.
I wouldn't really, if I'm thinking about knife crime, I'm not going to think, oh yeah, it's a girl or a lady or a woman. I'm going to think that it's going to be a boy. But maybe, yeah, they do carry knives. They probably do. I'm not going to rule that out
Okay.
and say no.
Danielle.
Some women might collect, and some women might carry knives to protect themselves from other men or other women.
Okay. And Faria, do you think females carry knives?
Yeah, I think so, but I think that the initial response from someone, if they hear that, would be, a guy carrying it because of, the whole alpha male thing. Like, I need to be the big man around here. But I think that it's just underestimated that women can carry it as well. And it may be for any reason. It may be for self-defense. It may be because they have a problem with someone, or maybe because society has made them feel like they need to carry it to be like validated. So at the end of the day, yeah, it could be both, but mostly I'd think male first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2019, over 1,500 offences were related to females carrying knives. Does this surprise you at all? Starting with Fabio again.
Yeah, that does. Like, I think like media is mostly focusing knife crime and relating that to like men. It's like you never really see on the news woman carries knife or woman gang or ladies and that. You don't associate that with it. Well, the media doesn't. We have an understanding, but I think out there publicly it's more like kind of blamed on men and like pushed towards them. So that's really surprising. That is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Danielle?
Yeah, it'd be quite surprising because some women do feel that they have to carry a knife to be able to protect themselves.
Okay. Is this being protected from anything in specific or just in general?
And some women do feel like they have to protect themselves from the men because they don't really feel safe.
Okay, thank you. Addison, was you surprised by the statistic at all?
Yeah, because obviously you see all over the news how it's always just like, oh, men get involved with like knife crime or something like that. And you don't really see a lot of women that get involved with this sort of stuff. So yeah, it was really surprising.
Okay, thank you. And Ashai?
Yeah, that did surprise me as well. But like Flavia said, I think it's really down to the media and what the media show and tell you, because they do just highlight the males and what gangs of boys are doing, not really the rest of the females.
Okay. Why do you think the media only focus on males with knives? Just a random question.
To be honest, I don't really know. I think maybe because a lot of violent acts usually probably are male, or I feel like they think that it's a little bit easier, and that's just how they want to portray it to everybody else instead of bringing like females into it.
Okay. Danielle, do you think there's a specific reason as to why the media focus on men and knife-related crimes?
Yeah, because they expect women to be or to just help themselves, whereas men, they help each other.
Okay. Addison, do you have anything to add on?
Maybe it's all over the media because that's probably all they hear about. Like, you don't fully hear about like the women getting involved with like knife crimes and things. So maybe they just don't involve that because they haven't heard about it, so they don't know that this happened. So
Okay. And Faria?
I think that it mostly comes down to like stereotypes and like racial prejudice and all that stuff. So if you hear about a knife crime, most likely you probably think that it's like someone from like a BAME background. Do you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't think it's someone who's you wouldn't think it's someone who's white, never mind someone who's a woman, because of the way the media
portrays that and the stereotypes people have. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I think.
And my last little question is, do you think that the media should now start reporting more on females with knives? Starting with Addison, please.
Yeah, I feel like they should start reporting people like female knife crimes, because it's showing that it's not just men that can carry knives, it's women as well. But obviously it's not giving a sign that you should protect yourself by carrying any weapon. It's just that it's not just men, it's women as well.
Okay, thank you. Ashay?
Yeah, I think it's important that the media are truthful and they report on everything that's happening, not just males or not just what they think should be reported. I think everything should be included so everyone fully understands the extent of what's actually going on. So yeah.
Okay. Fabia?
So yeah, I agree with that. I think we should take more of a inclusivist path when we talk about these kind of things. So we should talk about women. If we want to see a change in the stereotypes and we want to see a change with the media, we should start like talking about it ourselves and raising awareness and tackling the issue, talking to people who do carry knives and women as well, trying to understand them. And if we can understand them on a small scale, then surely the media can as well.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Danielle?
The women and the news should start reporting more about women carrying knives, because more and more women are actually carrying the knives rather than the men.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Devon, did you have another round of questions for us?
I could ask one more question, but okay, last one.
Okay.
So this is just from what you think would happen, but if you felt like both sides would put down the knives, and like Farry said earlier, if you think both sides put down knives and come together, do you think the violence would just stop? Like it would slow down and then just cease, stop happening? I'd like to ask Farry.
Sorry. Thank you.
That's fine.
I don't think that initially it will just stop, but it's a step forward in the progression. So if we can just channel that energy to them, focus on that, I think that it could be a start. It could be a means to like men and women opening up and why they carry weapons and why this happens on a larger scale. Because at the end of the day, we can have our opinion, but we wouldn't know why they do it. So if they could just come with us, and against the idea of unity, I think that we could start to see a change. It wouldn't be straight away, I don't think immediately, but we could start to see some progress.
Okay. Now I'd like to ask Ashay.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if both sides do put down the knives, then it would begin to spark a change and a kind of progression. I feel like then there wouldn't be a need to pick up a knife in the beginning for any reason. And I feel like it would be very positive towards maybe stuff while youth violence getting better. So, yeah.
Okay. And Danielle now?
I don't think it'll just stop immediately. You'll just carry on a bit and then just stop after a bit. Some people might still carry on with it.
So you feel like people will carry on the chain of what happened before?
Yeah, because that's how they feel about doing it.
Okay, like a bad habit.
Yeah.
And Addison?
Do you mind saying the question again?
Oh yeah, of course.
Sorry.
If both sides of, for example, violence or an incident decide to put down the knives and come together as part of unity, do you think the violence would just stop and cease?
I don't think it would ever stop, but like even if just like the numbers drop by about like 2 or 5% or something like that, it would make such a difference because you know that it's stopping and more people are going to be safe. And
Okay, I'd like to ask you, though you think it would slow down, why do you think it would never stop?
because I feel like the world wouldn't be the same without this sort of time, because it's just how we are. We're not perfect or anything, but we know that it sort of needs to stop because obviously we've got more cases of people getting stabbed, and we just need to make the world a safer place.
Okay, that's my last question.
Okay, those are some great questions. We also have a few questions that have come in from, well, great questions and great answers, might I add. We also have a few more questions that have come in from our audience on YouTube. So, and this is going to be questions to both the hosts and the participants. And one of the questions was about, would young people, so would you and your peers, be interested in locally generated social media channels if they were available? So I'm asking that question to, let's go to Renee. I've not heard her in a while.
Can you ask the question again, please? Sorry.
So would young people be interested in locally generated social media channels? So if, for instance, a Walsall generated social media channel, would you be interested in that if it were available?
Possibly. It sounds quite interesting. And it would depend on the content because it has to be something that will captivate young people in the area. So if it was something very interesting that everyone was interested in, then I feel like a lot of people would use that as a tool.
Okay. And do you think we could talk about things like youth violence and the prevention and alternatives to it on a channel like that?
I think that could be done. I think it'd put a lot of people at ease as well because a lot of people probably do have a lot of like anxiety around that sort of issue. So if it spoke about a bit more in a way that young people would understand, I feel like they'd feel a bit more protected knowing what's going to be done to prevent things like that in the area.
Yeah. Danielle, what do you think about that? A local generated social media channel. It doesn't
If we
have to
did
be
have
one, it could be
those,
a few. Sorry, go ahead.
if we did have those type of channels, it might spread. It might tell more people not to do it and help more people with what they're going through.
Okay. I think so too. Eshay, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Renee that there has to be on topics that are interesting so people are more likely to engage in them. But I do feel like it would be a good idea and like a better way to kind of educate people and get people more involved with what's going on. So, yeah.
So can you think of an example of the type of show that would be interesting, still interesting to young people, but you would be able to feed in topics like youth violence, just as an example?
A show is in like actors or like
No, on the social media channel.
oh, maybe shows like where it's people who have experienced certain things, like giving their stories and kind of like explain to people what it's like and how it affected them and how it might affect other people as well.
Okay, so for instance, if say Danielle and I had a little talk show and we would bring on guests every week, and then we brought you on as a guest one week to talk about your experiences, would something like that be interesting, or did you mean something
Yeah,
different?
yeah. Like people your age, kind of, so you can see it from people who share the same perspective as you.
Also, not me, I'm too old, but maybe maybe you and Devon, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, got it. Addison, any ideas? What do you think about that?
I think people would feel
Oh,
more protected
sorry,
if
as I'm running through it, and I'm seeing there's lots and lots of questions coming up. I'm going to ask you a different question, Addison, and I'm actually going to put that question to Faria. I have other questions that I'd like to ask you, Addison.
Okay, could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
So it was about locally generated social media channels.
Yeah, I think that would be a really interesting thing to do. I think that you could get like local personalities, like I don't know, maybe people who are well known in the community and have a lot of influence. I think you could bring people like that in, or we could come as well. I mean, if you want us to come, we'll come. We don't mind. But getting like those kind of people in, and if they can come and open up and talk about it, then it will encourage other people to come and talk about it. And when people talk about stuff and with their feelings and emotions, we can tackle problems a lot easily, basically.
Okay, good. Right. So at this part, just because we're drawing towards the end, I'm not going to ask everybody all the questions. So then I have more questions and I'll ask them to select people. So the question for Devon is, do you think knife crime will ever stop? And I know that Addison touched on this a little bit earlier, and she
Yeah.
spoke about the nature of people, but I just wanted to get, your take on this.
I would say knife crime, it could potentially stop, but it isn't going to be very easy to do it because it's constantly influenced, whether by positive or negative, social media or movies. It's like you see knife crime in popular TV shows, and the more you see it, the more you know about it, the more influence you become, whether you know that or you don't. So I reckon one day, maybe one day, it will be able to stop, but it would have to be a massive push to get it to stop eventually.
Okay. And whilst I've got you there, I'm not asking for any incriminating evidence right now, but I was going to, do you think any of your mates would carry a knife? This is to Devon. And yeah, you go ahead and answer that one first.
Okay, I can answer that. I reckon only one of my friends would ever carry a knife.
Okay.
I'm not saying they do, but I reckon, judging from their personality, the where they live, basically, it's a very shady area. And so I feel like if there were to be an incident with like youth violence, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was in the same area. And so therefore I wouldn't be too surprised if they had a knife or something like
Okay.
that.
Would you, or if you could, if you found out that he was carrying it, it's a he or a she, if you found out that they were carrying the knife, is there anything that you might want to say to them? And if so, what would that be?
I'll probably have a go at them, to be honest. I'd probably just say, realistically, as long as you mind your business, don't carry a knife, but try to avoid strangers and other people in your area, because it's a tough situation to be in that. And so it's like carrying a knife is always the worst possible thing to do because it creates an item where you could be injured or the other person could be injured, but one of them is definitely going to get injured. And so it's like I would always recommend them not to carry anything.
Okay.
That's
And
yeah.
would you know if there were any sort of groups or facilities that you could signpost them to, resources where they could get help to deal with their situation?
I'm not sure because of the whole COVID, but there were a few youth centers around where they lived, and so they could go in contact with a few youth centers. There was a few places they could go, I reckon.
Okay, good. Right, I have a couple of questions stacked here, which I'm going to, and this is again coming in from the questions that we just received were coming in from our YouTube channel. So thanks again to the YouTube audience for joining and participating. I actually have a load of questions and we're not going to get through them all. So I'm cherry picking a few of them to ask. So the next question that comes up, it was about, we talked in the quiz at the beginning of the show, we talked about the custody, the sentence that sometimes, well, when people get caught and they get arrested and charged and they end up in their situation, do we think that the custodial or the sentence that they receive, do we think that that actually helps? And I'm sending that question to Addison.
It maybe might help, because it's giving them time to actually think about what they've done. But it might not help as well, because obviously the numbers are still quite high about it. So if obviously they have like 4 years in there, they might have time to think, but also they could just continue it as soon as they get out. And yeah.
Okay. Danielle, how would you like to answer that question? Do you think that the sentencing, when they receive a stint or some time in prison, does it help, or how does it help, if at all?
I don't think it would help because they're not actually getting the help that they actually need. They need someone to talk to and help them through it.
Okay. Okay. Renee, would you like to have a go at sharing your thoughts with that one?
Yeah, sorry. Could you ask the question again, please?
So does the custodial sentence help? When people receive a prison sentence and then they serve it, does that actually help?
In some aspects it does help, because I remember a statistic being said that 4 out of 10 people then go to reoffend after they've had their sentence. So that doesn't seem like a lot, but when they come out and they go back to the area where they live, if those areas are still having problems with knife crime, they're more likely to go back doing what they were doing before, and it won't really make much of a difference apart from really impacting on their mental health from being inside. So I think more rehabilitative things need to be done rather than just a prison sentence.
Okay, so you actually stole the second half of the question that came in, but that's fine, because my next question, which was going to be to the remaining people in the call, was after the offenders have left and served their time and they come out, what do we think is actually best for them? And I'd like to ask that question to Ashay.
I think that it is important that there are like places where people they can speak to help them understand like what they have done and to help them get through their situations, and like even to speak to the people who are affected by the crime that they have done. I think stuff like that just help as well. Yeah.
Okay, so just to dig a little deeper into that, because we touched on it earlier, how are people affected? Like, do you think young people are really aware of how being caught up in one of these criminal activities, how it really affects their life?
I feel like at such a young age, it is a little bit difficult for them to understand what's going on, understand how like the little things that they do is actually really big of a deal. And I feel like if you're offending at a really young age and you're going into prison, I feel like you then become a part of the system, and it's important that you're able to access ways to help you understand more about the type of life you're leading into. Because if you start from a younger age and you're not really getting taught that it's wrong, or getting told about how deep it can really get, then you're just going to carry on and carry on.
Right.
So,
I think that's a really great point, because if there's a lot of activity in the youth offense and youth violence before people have really understood what life is, you're only young for a small amount of time. You're going to be old like me for a lot longer. So if you've made, it's an interesting point that you make. I want to ask the same question to Faria, and that was about what's best for offenders after they've released, after their release, because Renee pointed out that, you know, the 4 out of 10 they reoffend. That's quite a large number, you know, that's 40%. If you prefer percentages or 4 out of 10 as a fraction, that's quite a lot. So,
Yeah, I
Faria,
think that when a
what's
lot,
best?
I think that when a lot of these young people come out of their sentences, whatever they come out, there's not that many facilities for them to bounce back. It's kind of like they've being outcasted. They've got that label of, you've done time and we don't really accept you anymore. And they probably have that notion that no one's going to accept me. I can't get a job anyway. Let me just continue with this. And I think that that's like continued in their mind since they go into like prison, whatever. It's that gang culture and that culture of, I'm here now and I can't get out because there's no help for me to get out. And when I do get out, what am I going to do anyway? So let me just continue with something that I'm actually good at, or
Which is
I'm already in, which is what got them in there the first place. Like,
crime.
if because everyone wants to feel like they're good at something. So like, I think a lot of young people are like peer pressured into thinking that they're like
Okay.
they have a lot of peer pressure to be something that they're not, and they just go down that path. Yeah.
Understood. Devon, what do you think is best?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I don't want to mess
What
it
do
up.
you think is best for offenders after their release to help get their life back on track?
If I'm being honest, I don't want to copy another country, but there's a place where offenders, after they go into prison, depending on the time of their sentence or something similar to that, they actually have programs set up. So then when they come out of prison, they have still got a life, they're accustomed. So while in prison, it's not like they're just wasting their time, letting their life fade away. They have programs so that you can learn, you can still keep up in the world. So when you're released back into the world, you have somewhere to go and you can be with people and it's okay. And so I feel like something like that would be pretty good in most places.
Which country did you see that happening in?
Finland.
In Finland. So in Finland, whilst people are still in prison, they work with them.
They go with programs. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
See, the thing is, it's like in Finland, it's like they respect you. They don't treat you as any different as a regular person, though you've done a crime. They try to keep you as humane as possible. And so when you go back out, you feel perfectly at home. Like the prison is a place you've been at because you've done something wrong. You acknowledge you've done something wrong. And so when you're let back out, you feel like it's a chance to do right. And with the programs and things set up, you feel like it's now your opportunity to make something out of yourself. And I feel like that would be really good.
It's a really great point. Okay. I do feel like we're going to bring this to a close at some point. Is there anybody else that would like to share anything else on this topic? By a show of hands. Right. I don't see any more hands. Do we have any more questions on the YouTube? I don't think we do. And in that case, I would like to say thank you again to all of our participants. So that's Danielle, Addison, Ashay, and Faria. And again to our two gracious hosts, that's Renee and Devon. Job well done. And then the big boss lady in the background, Danielle Knowles, pulling all the levers and all the switches, doing a great job. And yes, I think that will be enough for today on our session with the Violence Reduction Unit West Midlands on youth violence. And when we meet next for our next session in 2 weeks, the topic will be around mental health. And I hope to see you all again and we can have another conversation just like this. So on that note, I shall bid you all good night and thanks again, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.